Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video from me, Pickles Park Reviews. Now today I'm going to be discussing the news that we got yesterday, the biggest possible news that you can get really in terms of Doctor Who. The next Doctor was announced, the 14th Doctor has been announced. Now people have been going on for absolutely ages, quite annoyingly I might say, just complaining, oh, when is the 14th Doctor going to be announced, when's the 14th Doctor going to be announced, is it going to be then, is it going to be then, why isn't it now? And you know, I was like, please guys, just, you know, it'll come when it'll come, you know, let's all be patient. And it did drop rather out of the blue yesterday, I'm gonna be honest. It was a bit weird because I know people will be like, where were you when the 14th Doctor was announced? And it was all a bit of a weird situation. It was just in the morning, I was just sat outside in my garden because, you know, it was quite sunny weather, a rare, you know, occurrence living in England, to be honest with you. But yeah, no, I just saw a notification from Faries saying Ncuti Gatwa 14th Doctor, and I thought, oh, is this like a leak? Because, you know, Faries is known for leak videos, and then it you know, it looks like he was pretty serious. So I was like, oh, check Twitter, and there it was, the Doctor Who tweet, Ncuti Gatwa is the next Doctor. And at first I still thought it was a bit of a joke, because in my head all I could think of was, oh, Eric from Sex Education, that's a weird choice. And then I realised, no, this is actually real. Ncuti Gatwa is the next Doctor. Now, the reason that I'm recording this today and I didn't record it yesterday is because A, I was mildly hungover yesterday, so I wasn't, you know, feeling the best to record a video, but also I didn't really have all too many thoughts about it. It was just like, oh yeah, that's interesting, but probably a pretty good choice. And that was it. And I feel as if that's sort of been the feeling from most people, because I remember that Jodie Whittaker's casting was so controversial. You know, people either loved it or were moaning about it. And I think, to me, I had a lot bigger reaction to it, especially, you've got to think, 2017, what I was like, in year 8 at the time, I would have been 13. And you know, in that stage I was sort of in my edgy, you know, feminist retcon compilation phase that, you know, many pre-teen, early teen boys go through when, you know, you mature and, you know, graduate out of that phase, I suppose. And at that point I was very much like, no, Jodie Whittaker shouldn't be the Doctor, you know, a woman shouldn't play the Doctor, this is breaking the show. And then soon after that you sort of realise that actually, you know, a woman playing the Doctor doesn't really matter, and, you know, you start to think, why was I getting so annoyed about that at the time? And, you know, obviously now, many years later, I was 13 then, I'm 18 now, you obviously, you know, I think like those sorts of variables, like, oh, a woman or a black man, you know, all these sorts of things, it really means nothing to me. You know, I looked at Ncuti Gatwa and it didn't really register to me that he was black, I'm going to be real. Like, it was like I saw it, it's like, oh, that's what, oh, yeah, he's black, yeah, that's cool, you know, the first black Doctor, you know, excluding Joe Martin, main Doctor, shall we say, you know, that's cool, nice bit of representation. But, you know, I was mainly focused on the actor, because let's be real, gender and race really means nothing with the Doctor. It's a very flexible character, but you need an actor who can actually, you know, pull off the fundamentals of the Doctor. I wouldn't really say we've had a miscast with the Doctor, really. The closest I'd say we've had a miscast is, you know, it pains me to say, but probably Jodie. And I wouldn't even say she's miscast for the role of the Doctor, I just think she's miscast for the type of Doctor that Chris Chibnall wants her to play. I think I touched on this in my Legend of the Sea Devils reaction, and I'm not going to go into too much depth here about that. But yeah, I wouldn't really say we've had a miscast for the Doctor, but yeah, it's a really interesting choice actually. As I said, initially when I saw it, I thought, because in my head when I saw it, I was just like, Eric from Sex Education as the Doctor. I cannot see this at all. Because I was just thinking of Eric from Sex Education, who, you know, is a great character. I love Eric. They slightly butchered him in, you know, season 3, but, you know, on the whole is a very good character and very well performed by Ncuti Gatwa, particularly his arc in season 1, which is great. It's great writing. Ncuti Gatwa performs it amazingly. It's a really you know, well-developed and almost touching arc between his relationship between him and his father, as, you know, a gay teen and a dad who you initially think is kind of homophobic, and it actually evolves into the fact that his dad is just scared of him expressing himself because he's worried that people will, you know, hurt his son because it is, you know, dangerous. But then ultimately he needs to accept that this is who his son wants to be, and he can't hide that anymore, and they bond over that and become closer. It's a really good arc. Sex Education is such a great show. If you haven't watched Sex Education, please go watch it. But yeah, he's a great actor, as I said, but obviously in my head I was thinking Eric the Doctor, very different characters. But you need to remember that it's very unlikely that Ncuti Gatwa will be playing the Doctor like Eric. I imagine it will be almost completely different, because that's just one role for an actor. You know, actors aren't just capable of playing one type of character, they're capable of playing multiple. I imagine Ncuti Gatwa is a very versatile actor. So, you know, I imagine he's going to be playing the Doctor very differently to how he plays Eric. And I'll be honest, Eric is the only role I've seen him in, and I imagine that's the case for a lot of people. It's obviously his most well-known role. And yeah, obviously he has good acting chops, but obviously the thing is with Jodie is she's an amazing actress, but you know, her Doctor never really gels. But I think you need to have a harmonious characterization and writing with Ncuti Gatwa, and obviously you know, it's sort of like a nice bit of insurance, if you will, that obviously Russell is writing Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor, because ultimately, you know, Russell can write and characterise the Doctor well. He characterised 2 Doctors pretty well, so you know that this Doctor will be well written. I'll be honest, I did think that Russell was going to cast a woman as the Doctor, mainly just because he's obviously worked on the show before. He had written 2 male Doctors, so in my head I was just thinking, just for pure variety, and just to do something different to what he did before, I thought, yeah, it's a no-brainer, he'll probably cast a woman. But he didn't, and, you know, I sort of would have liked to see another female Doctor. Lots of people want it, you know, just for representation. I get that. For me, I just wanted to see a different take on a female Doctor, especially as I'm not the biggest fan of Jodie. I wanted to see what Russell would do with a female Doctor. I think it's a pretty good casting choice. It's inspired, honestly, because as I said, from what I may have done different roles, from what I understand he probably hasn't played a role that's very similar to the Doctor. But ultimately, you know, that means that it's all sold in on an audition, and I was reading what Russell said, and he said that Ncuti was the last person to audition, and they already had someone else in their heads, and then he came in and they're like, no, this is our Doctor. So it must have been a pretty special audition, and if it's purely on an audition, you know, just a sort of mini pitch of his way of the Doctor, that gets me very excited, because it must have been something pretty special. And listening to Ncuti, he clearly had a lot of passion for the show, you know, and yeah, he's a great actor, so I think it'll be a really good casting choice. As I said, initially I was skeptical, but the more you think about it, the more it makes sense. And also, it's a pretty, you know, big coup for Doctor Who, you know. He's not an unknown actor. He's, you know, one of the stars of a very big Netflix show. Like, especially, I think this is what it got me, is because, you know, for my demographic, right, so I'm 18, only just turned 18, so I'm still in 6th form, and, you know, everyone I know has watched Sex Education. It's massive. You know, everyone might, especially because I'm in England, right? So everyone I know has watched Sex Education, loves Sex Education. It's a very big show, so everyone knows who Ncuti Gatwa is. You know, it's a pretty big name, a big pull for Doctor Who. And, you know, people are saying, oh, Russell's going to get a big actor. And while I thought, you know, that's probably not going to happen, I don't really see how it's, you know, going to be more of a draw. You know, Russell is a pretty big name in the TV writing world, but I don't see him getting a massive actor. And sure, Ncuti Gatwa isn't quite on the level of, you know, some of these others that people were like banding around, like ridiculous names. I've seen someone even suggest Andrew Garfield, and it's like, obviously not. It's like, oh, like what? But no, I think overall it's a pretty big coup for Doctor Who, and as I said, I think it's actually a very clever move, because they're clearly trying to target it more to people my age or people slightly younger, in that sort of bracket. And from personal experience, nobody watches Doctor Who is my age. You sort of have your younger fans, you have your older fans, and then there's sort of a bit of a graveyard sort of thing in the sort of mid to late teenage years. No one's really watching Doctor Who. You know, the consensus is that it kind of went to shit after Tennant left, or at least after when Smith left at a push. You know, no one watches it apart from, you know, a few weirdos like myself. So, you know, it's nice to see people actually talking about it, and, you know, people like him in Sex Education, people like Sex Education as a show, so I imagine it will definitely get people like my age bracket, if you will, talking about the show and intrigued and tuning into the show, which is great. And obviously Ncuti Gatwa, you know, won a BAFTA as well, so that's all good fun. So yeah, I think on the whole, it's a very smart casting choice. It's an inspired bit of casting. As I said, initially I was sceptical, but ultimately, you know, when you think he's not going to be playing Eric from Sex Education, you know, he's going to be playing a completely different character, but also in Sex Education, he is shown to be a very good actor, not just for comedy, but the dramatic stuff as well. So he's got those two aspects. And obviously, if he can perform very doctory, which, you know, based on that it was sold purely on an audition, guaranteed he is. Obviously, RTD knows the Doctor character inside out, cast two incredible Doctors with Eccleston and David Tennant. So, you know, I've got faith in Russell, and yeah, I like Ncuti Gatwa, obviously, and yeah, it's an inspired bit of casting. And as I said, I think it is actually going to be a big draw for, you know, people around my age who wouldn't really, you know, care about Doctor Who, but, you know, will be intrigued to see how he is in the part. It's got people talking, and that's always nice. You know, he is obviously the first main black actor for Doctor Who, which is obviously a big step. It's a nice bit of representation, and, you know, it's nice for all, you know, non-white people out there that, you know, to see themselves in a character they love, and, you know, it can inspire young kids that yes, they can do it. You know, it's the same with anything. It's the same with superheroes. When these big parts go out to people who aren't just, you know, white and male, you know, it does, you know, it's nice when you see videos of young kids now believing that they can, you know, see themselves in these parts too. That's always nice. But yes, it wasn't something that entirely registered with me. I think it's probably because, you know, we have had Joe Martin, so it's not like, oh, the first Black Doctor. But also, it's only the colour of their skin, right? You know, it's not a big thing. I do think changing the gender of the Doctor was far bigger than this. This really is nothing. You know, people complaining about this, like, shut up, please. Even then, also, you know, obviously, since the Jodie reveal when I was obviously quite young and immature, I've obviously matured a lot and grown and mellowed, and, you know, just realised that, you know, none of this stuff really matters. It's all on acting. You know, if you're a good actor, like, who flipping cares, you know, what you look like? No one cares, really. And honestly, Ncuti Gatwa, very good actor. I honestly think it's a great bit of casting. Honestly, and it has made me really look forward to RTD second era. Obviously, if you've been watching the channel for a little bit, you'll know that ultimately I have been a little bit skeptical going into RTD's second era, a bit worried about some of the rumours I've been hearing. I wasn't the biggest fan of him coming back because it almost seems like it was a bit of a negative trajectory for the show, a show that always moves forward. He's going back, and it seemed a bit calculated from the BBC. I did a whole video on that if you want to hear more of my explicit thoughts on that. But yes, as a whole, I'm very excited. I didn't really have much to say, really, to be honest. I looked and I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I went and told my sister just the novelty of Eric, you know, playing the Doctor. You know, she's like, well, that's you know, weird, are you sure? But yeah, overall, I didn't really have much strong feelings about it. I was just like, yeah, that's cool. And then the more I thought about it, I thought, actually, that's actually a pretty smart bit of casting. But yeah, overall, it's you know, I'm very excited. I think he'll be great, and yeah, I just think it's a very nice piece of casting for the show. And honestly, it's actually quite nice to have someone play the Doctor who I've actually seen in something, because obviously I hadn't seen Jodie in anything. Still haven't seen her in anything other than Doctor Who, actually. I was going to get round to watching Broadchurch, never did, to be honest with you. And when Capaldi was cast, I was quite young. What have I been, 9? So yeah, I wasn't watching TV that Capaldi would have been in anyway to judge his acting credentials. Yeah, so it's nice to look at that and actually know who the actor is and think, yeah, and actually, you know, say, will he be good, will he not, you know, yeah, good bit of casting. Is a thumbs up from me, and hopefully he'll be great in the part. I honestly think he probably will be. Yes, thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and drop a sub. If you want to see more content from me. What do you think of his casting? Do you think it'll be great? Are you a little bit skeptical? I saw some people thinking that maybe he won't be, that great because they're basing it purely off of Eric from Sex Education. I can understand that, but he, actors are versatile. I'm sure it'll be very different from Eric from Sex Education. The characterization will be very different, but purely based on the acting chops he displayed through Sex Education, I think that that's a very positive, representation of his talents. But yeah, whatever you think, enjoy your thoughts in the comment section below. Yes! Thank you guys for watching. And of course, bye. See you guys next time.